And a good afternoon to everyone. Hopefully, everybody's doing good today. Appreciate y'all coming out on this super cold and windy winter's day here in January. So, let's see who we got in the house. Awesome, brother AD Whitman. Good to see you. And hopefully, you have a decent day at work, and we'll see you when you get home. David, good to see you. Thanks so much for coming in. Appreciate it. Good to see you. Janet, it's good to see you. Welcome. Thank you for coming. Appreciate it. Thank anyone else that comes in later. Absolutely appreciate everybody. Had a just freezing day today. Let's see. Karen, it's good to see you. Thanks so much for coming in. Appreciate it. Good to see you. And Philip, that I still have that stove, but Dad, he didn't really want to put it up yet. He ain't the biggest fan of those things because he don't like the dust. But I have it. I still actually need a few more parts for it. I got it cleaned up and got that black stove polish on it, made it look like new. But there was some parts that I couldn't get to with what I was cleaning it with, so that it kind of some of it flaked off. So I'm gonna have to find a better wire brush to clean it, get it back looking good again, and still have to do a little welding on it. So, say no creeping me out tonight. I'm up here cleaning the church. Oh wow. Well, be safe while you're doing that. And good to see you, May. Thanks so much for coming in. Sure do appreciate it. Uh, I can't promise these ones are not going to freak you out. These are two long stories from our awesome book. And I had found these the last time I was going to read them, but our live went a little long, so I didn't want to throw two super long stories right in the midst of it. But see. Hopefully, you guys got to watch our last video. Yeah, grew up. We had a wood stove that we had for a long time, and Dad never, they never did use the pot of water, so the air got dried out. Me and my brother stayed sick all the time, so they took that out. But this one's like small compared to that one, and I would only use it like a day like today, like when it's super cold outside and you just can't get warm. You fire that thing up and cook you some beans on it. And, ooh, this sets right on the road where the Confederate soldiers marched on their way to the Battle of Fort Smith. Wow, gets weird around here sometimes. Well, welcome in, Jan. So good to see you. Thanks so much for coming in. Hope you're doing good. Really appreciate it. Uh, but the last video that we did, hopefully you guys got to see that. That was interesting. Uh, Finding the story and what actually happened, and kind of got into most wanted case that took place back in 1976. That was just tragic, and then the man still being unidentified today, still sad. And I noticed in the comments a lot of folks was saying that maybe they can continue to run DNA tests, and they do. They run it very often, trying to see if they can find any ancestors that are still alive of this man, and maybe they can tell us who he is or something. But uh, Let's see. Said the humidity and wet air makes you sick. Well, super dry air is what our problem was. The air was dry and it dried out our sinuses, and uh, appreciate you listening to that. That's awesome. Our family's doing pretty good. Hope's actually got an appointment coming up February. We had to miss our last one. We really need to go to this one, and unfortunately, I think we're going to end up having to change her doctors because the one that she's seeing now is like a 4 hour round trip, and it's getting to be where we can't get away to get to that doctor. So we may end up, like I said, having to change to one that's closer. Uh, there's a children's hospital. See, that's what I was saying, Karen. I don't think they did. They needed to. I always kept an iron kettle. This one, I want an iron kettle going, but uh, I found that there's a children's hospital with a pediatric endocrinologist an hour away from us, but I don't know if it says they take her insurance and everything, but I don't know. We hadn't even really talked about it. We're just trying to get through this appointment, and then that'll give us some time to figure out what we're going to do. But like I said, we kind of have a hard time getting her to the doctor right now when the doctor's a 2 hour drive away. But we'll get it figured out anyway. But anyway, I'm looking forward back to that stove. I'm kind of looking forward to getting that thing together. It's probably not. It won't be. It'll be maybe next winter, but let's see. Did you hear that they found Jack the Ripper? Wow, no, I didn't. Didn't know they found who Jack the Ripper was. Boy, he was a creepy mug. I know that. But uh, this summer, hopefully, when I get a little more time, like I said, I got to do a weld repair to the front surround of that little stove, and then I need to replace those the little rods that connect the top to the bottom. They come in, but the way the original ones are made, they have like a flat plate like this, and then just a nut on the bottom. But the new ones have a nut on the bottom and top, and they didn't come with the nuts. So I have to find the nuts that fit that, and then what I may end up doing is finding a thick washer and just welding to the end of those things so it looks more like the original and just put a nut on the bottom. But I still have a few repairs to make to that thing yet, and but we will get it up and going, and maybe we'll get to do a live stream set next to it with a fire going in it. So, but let's see. Welcome in, Miss Betty. It's so good to see you. Thanks so much for coming in. Uh, usually at the beginning, like her 1 year, which I think's in April, uh, they have a social worker that comes down and asks if you are having a hard time getting there. And used to, we didn't. We borrowed a car, but the last time we borrowed it, it was having. We almost didn't get home because it was some mechanical issues going on, and after that, they were like, "We can't let you drive this car 2 hours away because we're afraid you'll get stuck down there." And nothing that we have will make it that far. So that's why I said we were gonna try to rent a vehicle, and we got scammed out of that $200 that I had put on a card to do that with last time. So I don't know. Like I said, we'll get it figured out. Good Lord, always He's got us in control. So He'll figure it out for us. Let's see. Apparently, one of the lady's scars was auctioned off. The gentleman bought it and sent it for DNA, and they tested it was his niece. Wow. But it'll be all right. Everything will be okay. Always is. But I guess with that, let's get into these stories because these are a little bit long. So let me just get me off of here. We'll sit back and start reading. So here we go. The first one is called A Haunted Cemetery in Shirley, Wisconsin. It says a group of friends search for a fabled haunted cemetery, but while they set up base near a nearby town, they discovered it's the town itself that is haunted. The location is outside a rumored haunted cemetery in Shirley, Wisconsin. The date is a time suitable for ghost hunting in 2008. The atmosphere was an ethereal, hazy sense of something feeling horrible and out of place. In 2008, I was 18 years old. At the time, a couple of friends of mine decided we were going to start ghost hunting. We wanted to go somewhere away from the small Wisconsin town we all grew up in. I live about 30 minutes away from Green Bay, and one of my friends was looking for haunted locations around this area, somewhere far enough to make it special, but not too far. We decided on a small town called Shirley. There was a reported haunted cemetery there where you could see lights floating in the cemetery's corner and hear voices crying. Typical haunted cemetery stuff. We had a good old fashioned VHS camcorder that we recorded with. It had an old school light on it. It got the job done for a group of 18 to 20-year-olds who on a whim went ghost hunting. My friend Cece and I were excited about this trip. We stayed up late at night, engrossed in conversation and laughter, creating amusing what if scenarios that left us in stitches. Two other friends, Momo and her boyfriend Lewis, were joining on this trip. On the day of, we set out as planned in Lewis's car. Cece was sitting in the back with me while Momo was in the passenger seat. Lewis was driving. Behind Lewis and Cece sat behind Momo. We headed toward Green Bay. Shirley was about 15 to 20 minutes past. It was nighttime and the stars were out. We are all excited, in a good mood, smoking cigarettes and making jokes. Cece and I wouldn't stop laughing at each other in the back seat. She and I developed an inside joke saying, "You know what's messed up?" Which was our way of saying, "I was just thinking the same thing." Depending on our tone, the statement came out as serious or as humorous. It got to a point where we kept saying it so much that we were saying things in unison. We both noticed how strange this was, and we did our best to avoid it. So we tried engaging in conversation with Momo and Lewis. But when Cece and I started joking about a hypothetical situation in the cemetery where she would hold a rubber chicken on her hand for a laugh, and the same rhythm in the same way, she and I both made a ridiculous gobbling noise. It was eerily in sync, and it just kept happening. We stopped talking for a while because it was freaking Cece out. During the car ride, everyone noticed a shooting star, a lot of shooting stars. However, I didn't see any. Every 5 minutes, one of the three would say they saw one. I started thinking they were just messing with me. When I looked out the window, I saw many stars, but they were still. I grew frustrated and said in a jokingly angry tone, "Just show me one shoe." Because before I could finish my angry plea, a star shot across my line of vision. I was in awe. It was impossible. I could not believe it. The timing was perfect, as the cosmos was saying, "Just shut up." Also, couldn't help but notice that on my way to Shirley, we had no cars behind us. We were on the highway in Green Bay, a popular city, but no cars passed us. We didn't pass any cars either. We also didn't see any headlights behind us, except for some tail lights in front. There was never any close traffic. No, I couldn't tell you about any of the signage leading up to Shirley, but getting on the road to this town was almost surreal. It was like parts of the road didn't make sense. There were trees and road signs in strange places. I remember driving through a very small town that had a gas station and not much else. A couple of street lights, a veterinarian, or a chiropractor, or a dentist, but I don't remember. All I knew was that I had to turn left to get on the road that led to Shirley. And this wasn't even the main road to the town. The main road to Shirley was a long, straight road with notable hills. It was strange that there are no cars in sight, neither behind nor in front of us, nor coming from the opposite direction. It was just surreal. At one point, there was a deer standing on the side of the road watching us drive by, then another one and another one, all bucks. It was strange. The center of Shirley included a mill, two bars, and old buildings that may have been turned into apartments. It looked like there were lights in the windows, but it was hard to tell. We drove down the road where the cemetery was located and passed by a church that had another cemetery next to it, but it wasn't the one we were looking for. Shirley roads were quite empty, with only few farmhouses and barns in sight. Of the houses we saw, it was as if each had only 5 or 6 lights outside, not including decorations or solar lights, but actual bright lights on the house, garage, barn, and even poles in the field that were all lit up. Lights just kept appearing, although some of them disappeared as we got closer. Throughout the whole time, there were still no cars around us, and there was no movement in the town. We parked outside the cemetery next to the church and tried to film something from the car. None of us felt like getting out, mostly because we all couldn't help but notice it didn't feel normal outside. We stuck our hands and heads outside and it just felt wrong. Like if we got out of the car, we couldn't get back in. So none of us wanted to even attempt to get out. There was a field to the right of the tall corn that was ready, if not beyond ready, to get cut down. Momo took the camera and passed it to Lewis, who filmed the cemetery. Then he passed the camera back. This happened a couple of times. Out of nowhere, we noticed a car driving away from us. Louis decided we was going to follow it, though he had no reason to. He wanted to catch up to it, but he could not. He kept increasing the speed, but the car ahead of us maintained its distance. It's possible they thought we were up to no good or wanted to harm them, but no matter how hard we tried, we could not get close to the car. It seemed like it didn't have a back plate, which is illegal. Then we saw the car take a left turn, but we never came across the curve in the road. We all questioned if it had actually turned there, as there were no roads on the left, just fields. It was inexplicable. Eventually, we saw a truck driving toward us. It was dark and we couldn't see who was driving it, but it began a pattern. Every time we saw headlights approaching, it was a truck. The same truck. It had no front license plate and kept driving by us as if it had multiple streets to turn down and surprise us with. We also noticed three vehicles coming toward us. To our surprise, they were all similar trucks appearing at perfect intervals. None of them had license plates either. All the taillights disappeared behind us, and despite that, there was never a car behind us. The initial excitement faded. None of us wanted to get out the car because of the fear of falling into the false reality of Shirley. After attempting to follow another car that disappeared on the same road as the previous one, we decided it was time to go. However, I insisted on going back to the cemetery, saying I would get out of the car if we did. Strangely, headlights suddenly materialized behind us, radiating a sinister, hostile aura. They didn't seem like a car casually popping up, but more like an evil pair of headlights. It freaked Lewis out, and he said we were leaving. He turned onto the road we had taken to the center of Shirley, driving well above the speed limit, but the headlights were still behind us and keeping with our speed. He drove faster, and they followed suit. We were going over 85 miles per hour. The lights behind us started disappearing behind the hills of the road and never reappeared. Stranger still, all the lights we had seen on the way were turned off. Not a single bulb lit. When we reached the road to leave Shirley, we felt relieved. There was an old car about to turn into Shirley, but they waited for us to turn onto the road they were on, even though no cars were coming. We watched them for a while. They had plenty of time to turn. As our headlights hit the side of the car, I looked inside to see who was going to Shirley, and I saw nothing except for a black silhouette. I asked if anyone else saw the driver, and they all said no. Either they didn't notice or didn't care to look, but I did. How could headlights obscure someone's feature? I should have seen their face. I tested this theory many times also. Also, note that this was the first sedan we encountered, not a truck like the others. Welcome in, Randall. It's so good to see you. Thanks so much for coming in. Appreciate it. I felt relieved to be on the road. I was filled with confusion, frustration, and unanswered questions. What was going on in Shirley? Thoughts plagued my mind. Everyone else remained silent as if they were drained. I was looking at my phone or something else, although phones weren't very entertaining yet. I remember I was texting a friend when out of the corner of my eye, I noticed Cece turning her head to look out the back window. Suddenly, she started crying hysterically, catching me off guard. I asked her, "What's wrong?" and looked out the back window of the car. As we looked back, we saw a dead end road with an old ball top street lamp, its light flickering weakly amid the surrounding trees. The dead end we had just come from, and under the light stood a being in a white cloak and gown, resembling a white grim reaper. I couldn't see their face as the hood covered it, but I could feel them looking at me. It felt like I stared at them for minutes, although it was only seconds. Then I remembered why I looked behind us. I turned to my crying friend, put my hand on her shoulder, and asked, "What did you see? Tell me what you saw." Between sobs, she choked out, "I saw a man dressed in white standing by the side of the road. He tried to open your door. I saw him out of the corner of my eye, though Lewis's window, through Lewis's window." Her words were shaky and hysterical. I strained to understand them. When I looked up, he was reaching for your door. Then I followed him with my eyes, and the road changed. Then I looked away, and I couldn't believe it. But I told her I saw the same thing. She couldn't comprehend what she was seeing, neither could I. It was as if we were the only two in the car. Lewis and Momo remained silent, asking nothing, not even looking behind the car. It seemed though they didn't want to. It was almost as if something was telling them to stay out of it. Welcome in, Rachel. It's so good to see you. Thanks so much for coming in. Appreciate it. And Face A, so good to see you. Thank you so much for coming in. Appreciate it. Momo and Lewis later explained that they didn't say anything because they felt like they didn't dare. Their emotions were absent. They didn't look behind them or use their mirrors to check what was happening behind us. They just stared ahead as if everything had turned black and white. We went back to Shirley a couple times, but nothing compared to the first visit. I do not know what made it so special. Maybe it was the day, the energy or our desire for something paranormal. We went to Shirley in search of the cemetery we never found, but we left with truly disturbing story to tell. Some people don't believe us, but it doesn't matter. We know what happened. I can't help wonder if anyone else has ever experienced it. If they got out of the car or got chased like we did. Either way, we returned to my apartment, watched a little bit of the video we had recorded. We saw the trucks, the tail lights, the random lights in the town, and even a few moments where the lens flare from three barn lights resembled a white hooded figure that matched the one from the side. This made Cece cry hysterically yet again. The only event we have on the spooky side of Shirley is when Lewis gave Momo the camera while we were parked by the cornfield during our adventure. In a video, a man with a straw hat and overalls emerges from the corn, his gaze fixed on us. He yet appears to be floating without legs. Wow. What an experience they had to experience there. You imagine that? Just teenagers going on your very first ghost hunt, and you decide to go to a town you've never been to in search of a certain cemetery. I mean, wow. And then all these strange things happen, and seeing just the same truck appear more than once, and all those weird lights out just like one after the other. And then when you get to the cemetery, you get that like you don't belong here feeling, and then you have a random car pull up and you follow them and you just can't catch them, and then all of a sudden you're getting chased, and right when you're exiting the town, then see that white hooded cloaked figure trying to get into the vehicle. Like, wow. Just, I wouldn't know what to do. That's definitely experience not everybody gets to. And folks not believing them, a lot of times that's the reason why people don't want to share their story, because folks don't believe them. And it's just crazy. Let's see. I think I'm going to read. I got one short one. I think I'm going to save the missing boy and the pale man for next week, because we're already 35 minutes in this. So I think I'm going to read one short one and we'll end it. So get me back off the screen here. This one's called Never Open Your Door for the Late Trick or Treat. Kids trot around dressed as ghouls and monsters in search of candy. It's not all about treats, though. Sometimes you'll be on the cruel end of a trick. Hot, line, hook, line, and sinker. The location is a charming residential neighborhood in a typical suburb. The date, of course, it's Halloween. The atmosphere is a mischievously crafty, sinister, and festive. In my neighborhood, it's an unspoken rule that trick or treat ends at 10 p.m. Usually the kids walk around, come at different times depending on their age. The cute little 4 to 7 year olds come earliest when it's still light out. They are probably my favorite. Then come the older kids. They are kind of awkward and silly. Finally, the kids who are self conscious about still trick or treating, usually high school freshmen and sophomores. They are the best for pranking, so I enjoy that a lot. Anyway, this particular Halloween died down around 10 minutes till 10. I retired to my couch with leftover candy. Outside, the sound of kids faded as they deserted the streets one by one, signaling the end of Halloween. I fell asleep around midnight. The surrounding area was a graveyard of Jolly Rancher wrappers and lollipop sticks. A timid rap on the door woke me up. I sat up, half asleep. My mind was too foggy to be sure, but I think I asked, "Who was it?" The next knock was much louder and shook the cobwebs from my brain. I jumped off the couch and cautiously approached the door. Through the peephole, I caught a glimpse of a small boy dressed in a surprisingly sharply tailored suit. It was perfectly ironed and inky black. The boy's face was pale and smooth, with a vibrant blush around his cheeks. The most stunning part, however, was his piercing blue eyes. I opened the door and greeted the kid. I asked him what he was doing up so late and where his parents were. He replied he was hungry and wanted some candy, ignoring my second question. I hesitatingly brought the candy bowl to him. He fished through the candy and dug out a hand of the bottom. He felt around for a while, never looking into the bowl. I found this odd and didn't say anything. Suddenly, the kid screamed and pulled his hand out of the bowl. It was bleeding fiercely. I freaked out and grabbed a paper towel and tried to wipe the blood, but the kid kept screaming and slapping my hand. He gave me a haunting, accusing stare with those deep blue eyes. He pointed at me and yelled with tears running down his cheek with a furious scream. He declared that my efforts were in vain. Now I would face the price. I did not know what he was trying to say. I saw the fish hook in the boy's hand. I suspected it was a ploy to falsely accuse me and sue me for money. But the kid kept screaming and bleeding an inhumane amount. His eyes went wide. He started screaming even more frantically. He grabbed his arm and swatted all over his body like there were bees attacking him. I watched in horror as the fish hook protruded everywhere from his body. My porch was now puddled with blood. I slammed the door, and within a few minutes, the screaming ended. I wondered how no one had heard the kid scream and hoped desperately that it was all some twisted hallucination. I fell asleep much later that night. I woke up and felt extremely refreshed. The sun was glowing. It seemed to be like a good morning, and the events of the previous night were just a vague memory, like a dream. In fact, I am almost convinced it was one. When I stepped outside, there was no puddles of blood. None of the neighbors said anything about hearing a screaming child in the middle of the night. But there is one thing that kept me from setting it aside as a dream. Halfway through the day, I realized I had been clutching something in my hand. When I looked, it was a small, rusty fish hook. Holy crap. Now that's a strange twist to a story. And I have no idea what I would do if I experienced that on Halloween. I think that's the reason why we go to what they call it, trunk or treats instead of anything else. Uh, Absolutely insane. Uh, I wouldn't know what to do, even if a kid was faking it and grabbed some candy and acted like he had a fish hook in his hand, screaming, blood going everywhere. I think I would faint. So, but what a strange story. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed those two stories tonight. Like I said, next week we'll get into the missing boy and the pale man, and I think I have another one marked that was sort of short called "Why I Don't Go into Hospital Morgues Anymore." Welcome in, Tammy. Thanks so much for coming in. It's good to see you. Really enjoyed seeing y'all tonight. I appreciate you guys listening, and the story just was like wow. So hopefully y'all enjoyed that. Like I said, I appreciate you guys watching the videos, leaving those comments on there and sharing them out and telling everybody about us and help growing the channel. And uh, it's good to see folks. Good to see Philip back, and really good to see Randall back. Hopefully he's doing really good. Appreciate each and every one of y'all for coming in, and no telling what we got coming up story wise. I know right now I'm working on a story uh, of a cemetery that Autumn and I have actually visited many times on her channel, and recently come across some newspaper articles about some folks buried there, and that's the story I'm working on. It's a massacre story, so uh, we'll get into that. Working on it right now. I actually got it written, got it handwritten, got the audio part edited, and now I'm getting into stories. So, getting into the photographs for the story. The story takes place in October of 1924, of all things. So, Saturday at 3 o'clock, you guys will have to tune in and just figure out what happened and what was the cause of this strange massacre caused by a doctor, of all things. So, appreciate y'all coming out tonight, and I guess with that, we'll leave y'all until next week. So, you know how Lori is. Laura's doing good. She's still taking it easy because that surgery that she went to was a very strenuous surgery, and it's going to take months of recovery time and uh, having to go through all that and heal internally and still try to keep things going. So they're still slow with that right now. And like I said, Jared's still trying to help her with everything he can. So that's kind of why his channel slowed down some. But as the year goes on here, things will start picking up. Y'all see, just a little patience with them. Like I said, health issues sometimes take a little while to get over, but they will. And he'll be getting back to his Sunday services and live streams and all that. And anyway, guys, with that, I'll see y'all next week. See everybody. Thank you for coming.